The first season finale of Babylon 5, Chrysalis, is the payoff to what Signs Importance had set up. Yes, and several other things, but it's singularly committed to the major issue of this episode, starting with an enraged Londo wondering why the Narn are attacking Centauri ships without provocation in neutral territory. Now, normally the Narn response would be because they were within weapons range, of course. The Narn's entire Centauri foreign policy statement is, needs a killin'. But since the League of Non-Aligned Worlds and House of Pancakes are here, G'Kar says, they were repelling an invasion of our territory. Oh, I almost forgot. That's our territory now. That is sovereign Narn territory, and I don't like your face either. You can see a little bit of Midnight on the Firing Line in this, the first episode of the series proper, when the Narn conquered a Centauri colony. And that stuck in Londo's craw because his nephew had been captured and forced to read false statements over the invasion, and also because his government would do nothing about it. It was only thanks to it getting out that the Narn were supplying the raiders that were such a nuisance in the early season that they were forced to give it back. But Londo hasn't forgotten what an insult it was. The Narn literally made his family the face of capitulation. You know there are memes with him everywhere. But returning to Signs Importance, G'Kar and Londo both laid out their desires. Their political desires. You can guess what Londo's other desires are. G'Kar, he's got a fetish for human women, you might remember. Neither of which is particularly relevant to this topic. Well, not unless someone makes an effort to broker an agreement with a bra and panties pillow fight. Hey, give peace a chance, I say. But their political desires were about retribution. G'Kar wanted the Centauri wiped out, but that was the end of it. While Londo wanted the return of the Centauri to power, like when they dominated the Narn. Again, in the political way, not the other way. G'Kar argues that the terms of the treaty that made this neutral space is invalid, because it was imposed by the stronger Centauri, which not to defend oppression and subjugation, but that usually is the way treaties work. The stronger one gets to dictate the terms. The Narn can throw that treaty away if they choose to. It's just that has repercussions if that's how you operate. Like it or not, it makes you look unreliable and the aggressor when you do that. Yeah, you're more powerful now, so hey, here's a thought. Why don't you call for a new treaty instead of just showing up, beating the crap out of Centauri for, well, what am I saying? Of course, that was the whole point, wasn't it? Oh, sure, they want the system, but the real point is to just humiliate the Centauri for the sake of humiliation. And the Centauri pride, that's only going to let that go on for so long. They're like two people who hate each other trapped in a small room. The friction is going to lead to something serious sooner or later. Meanwhile, the denizens of Babylon 5 engage in one of their more common pastimes, watching someone seriously wounded stagger about without actually doing anything. It's Petrov, an informant for Garibaldi, who is there to provide the nebulous dying statement, they're going to kill him. Garibaldi takes it kind of personally, since Petrov had pulled himself together and gotten back on the right track, only to die like this? No, he's getting to the bottom of this. He's made up his mind. Sinclair, on the other hand, has given up on his political desires and gone straight to the girl part. These two have a complicated relationship.
Sure, we got together, split up, got together again.
Yes, it's been quite a pony ride.
It's also kind of a confusing relationship. Either that or his post-coital affection is feeding her a sugar cube. Anyway, Sinclair really thinks that she needs a bridal gown, sorry. What I mean to say is that they want to get hitched. They're going to tie the knot. I mean, it's time for the next scene. Londo is brooding over the situation with the Narn de Veer, upset about the fact that he's going to have to once again follow the Emperor's wishes in the name of peace, and even offer to give up Quadrant 37 to the Narn, really starting to get under his skin.
What are those earth creatures called? Feathers, long bill, webbed feet. Go quack. Cats. Like being nibbled to death by cats.
In answer, there's a call from Mr. Morden, who sets up a meeting with Londo in the hedge maze. Just past the frozen Jack Nicholson, Mr. Morden assures Londo that he's being wasted in his current role, but Morden and Associates can help him fix that. But Londo's under no delusions. He knows he's not here because it's so important that it demands his talents. He's here because no one with any influence wants to be saddled with this assignment. He's here because his drunken womanizing lives down to his government's expectations. But Mr. Morden suggests that his associates take care of that little Narn outpost problem, and Londo can have all the credit for that. And insisting they don't want anything except to help and, well, maybe a favor for a favor in the future, but that's all. I mean, that's fair. Of course, Londo's suspicious, but with the Narn annoying the crap out of him for all season, he's decided to go along with the plan and informs Homeworld that he will personally deal with the Narn. I'm sure they're filled with confidence. Meanwhile, Sinclair is trying to, and you have to admire the idealistic folly of this, resolve a Narn-Centauri conflict with diplomacy. Well, no time for that today, Commander. G'Kar is rather busy. Ah, well, not anymore, I guess. Jesus, is that a bed or a clown car? G'Kar's assistant, Natoth, goes to get a fire hose and hazmat suit, while G'Kar comes out to talk things over. But it seems he doesn't want to hear what Sinclair's saying.
You're like abused children who've grown big enough to do the same thing to someone else, as if that'll somehow balance the scales. It won't. If you let your anger cloud your judgment, it'll destroy you.
No, I see no way this could possibly blow up in our faces. I challenge irony to prove otherwise. Elsewhere, Delenn is still setting up the universe's most complicated game of Kerplunk, but takes a break when Lanier informs her that Kosh answered her question with a yes. She goes to see him, but still has doubts, so Kosh reveals himself to her, but not to us. We don't want to be a creepy voyeur or anything. Garibaldi's investigation has led him to a guy with a serious underbite and very clogged sinuses, who says Petrov did off-the-book loading for some guy named Devereaux. Garibaldi finds this Devereaux and drags him down to security, but while Sinclair and his pony girl tell them the good news of the marriage, Devereaux disappears. Speaking of disappearing, let's check in on Quadrant 37, where the spawn of Satan has arrived. They annihilate everything and then depart, leaving only the fresh smell of brimstone. Natoth comes back to G'Kar, who's exhausted for some reason. Well, we've scrubbed, bleached, or burned everything in there, Ambassador. Ready for the cheerleaders? She explains about the outpost, and he's left confused. He puzzles through all the suspects. The humans wouldn't respond with annihilation. The Centauri don't have the will to try. The Vorlons don't care what the Narn and Centauri do to each other.
There's someone else out there, Natoth.
G'Kar started off this season as something of a bad guy, most overtly in the gathering at midnight on the firing line. After that, though, was more or less just an issue of mistrust between him and the others. For instance, when he nearly started a riot over attacks by humans on aliens. He's not actually really villainous, though, even though it seems the idea of how others see him. A treacherous Narn, though perhaps engaging in repeated treachery didn't help. But rewatching Born to the Purple, where G'Kar is duped into helping foil a plot and everyone stands there laughing as they announce that he just helped save Londo's career and avert the possible collapse of the Centauri, it's treated like, you were just tricked into helping someone you don't like. Whereas in retrospect, it's, guess what? You just helped ensure your people will be put in concentration camps. Joke sure's on you. G'Kar even began showing a spiritual side this season. So when he talks with Ivanova later, there's a great deal of empathy for her and what her people would go through. The changes to his character really isn't that he's less of a villain, because he never really was. He was just extremely mistrustful, and now it seems like that's evaporating. By the end of the episode, he's going to head out to search for who's really responsible, so he can deliver some angry lizard man payback. Garibaldi decides to check out some of Devereaux's cargo that didn't make it out, and sure enough, the criminal leaves incriminating evidence just lying around. It turns out to be some jamming equipment set up to block the special channel for Earth Force One, where the President of Earth is out on a goodwill mission. Clearly, he doesn't have enough goodwill already, because Garibaldi puts it together. They're going to jam the signal so they can assassinate him. He goes to fill Sinclair in, but Devereaux stops him. But what really stops him is that his second-in-command follows him in there instead of staying put, and then shoots him in the back. And we all go up in rank. Sinclair wonders what happened with Garibaldi, but when he went to check up on him, he's intercepted by Delenn. She shows Sinclair a flashback-triggering triangle, revealing his capture by the Minbari. She's ready to reveal all the secrets, but considering Garibaldi's dying in an alley somewhere of a shot in the back, this isn't really the best time for that. But Sinclair agrees to come by later. She uses the time to finish her plastic pyramid while Lanier looks on nervously, and even more so when it starts ejaculating all over the wall. Garibaldi gets dragged in for surgery, but first he warns Sinclair that there's a conspiracy to kill the president. Sinclair tries raising them, but surprisingly, the signal's jammed. Who'd have thunk? Earth Force One then inexplicably tumbles out of orbit and blows up. Sinclair is really cheesed off over all this, so orders protection for Garibaldi and hunting down Devereaux, an order he gives to the assassin, so as you can imagine, this too ends with a gunshot. Having worked that out so well, Sinclair tries talking to one of the senators over this, but she thinks the odds of Garibaldi finding something like this is nil, and like all TV Authority characters, orders him to forget about this case before he loses his badge. Londo meets with Mr. Morden, shocked that taking care of Quadrant 37 would actually wind up getting somebody killed. He's distraught over the deaths of 10,000. So Mr. Morden subtly reminds him that this is what Londo said he wanted, a return to power for the Centauri, and advancement of his own career, and this paved the way for both. So yes, 10,000 dead people. You're welcome. As Sinclair reflects on the crappy day he's had, again, he watches Vice President Clark, who conveniently got off of Earth Force One before it exploded, get sworn in as the new president. Kosh then glides up and points out that he's forgotten something, so Sinclair rushes down to see Delenn. Well, to put a real capper on his day, the one person here who can answer all the questions plaguing him this season is now wrapped up in a cocoon. Believe me when I say Sinclair's not a bad commander. It's just a coincidence that in the two most significant arc episodes, his only successes were destroying a few fighters and using a urinal without getting caught in his zipper. But just to get out our creepy quotient for the episode, we see Mr. Morden talking with some nasty-looking silhouettes about how he's got Londo in his pocket now. Cue ominousness. Chrysalis brings together a lot of important events from first season and kicks off B5's real story. So not only is it a must-see, it's one of the most important episodes in the entire show. Londo is now on his path, Jakar on his own, which will lead to many complicated elements to their relationship over the years to come. And also a massive change to the status quo on Earth begins here. Sinclair's final comment before his unforeseen departure, "Nothing's the same anymore," is very appropriate, all things considered. Originally, 2 versions of this episode were broadcast. This one, and one made by some dumbasses at the network who found a technical glitch and thought they'd fix it by rebuilding the whole thing from scratch themselves. B5, the show, often seemed like B5, the station, in that there was often some kind of inexplicable crisis going on that needed to be worked out. I know that sounds like a lot of TV for anyone who looks at behind-the-scenes stuff, but having some numbnut just re-edit the entire show without even putting process shots in there doesn't sound like the kind of problems that I've heard mentioned on any other show.